Hey guys, so I had a question on nutrition before you go to Ranger School. So in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about nutrition before as well as nutrition after, which is actually just as important or probably more so important. Um, so we'll jump right in. Nutrition before. Now, I need to start off by saying that nutrition is it's a wild topic. Everybody's got their opinion. They're not all bad, not all great. So just know that what I tell you today is my opinion. So you can take it for gold, or you can watch it and think this guy's an idiot. He has no idea what he's talking about. And honestly, maybe I don't. I'm not a licensed dietitian. I'm not a doctor. I only know what I've done and what I've tried and what I've experienced and what works for me and what doesn't work for me. So, I'll jump right into it. I've done a few diets, like the carnivore diet. Tried it. Didn't care much for it. I've done, what the heck is that one? All these fad diets, right? So there's the keto diet. I did the keto diet for 3 months, 4 months, something like that. It's just, I wasn't a fan, right? I prefer personally, that you learn how to just eat healthy, right? Understanding what portion controls are. So you're not just gorging yourself on 25 ounces of steak every single day, which is fantastic. But 25 ounces of steak, even one meal a day, every single day for your whole life is too much, right? It's just too much. I shouldn't have to say that, but it's just too much. It's you shouldn't consume a pound and a half of meat. That's far too much, right? Now there are obviously worse things you could consume. You could consume a pound and a half of French fries, which is probably worse than a pound and a half of meat. But what I'm getting at is a general healthy diet is going to beat any fad diet out there. And the reason I say that is because it's sustainable. If you can learn to just generally eat healthy, it's a sustainable diet, right? The reason I don't much care for these fad diets, your Atkins diet, your keto diet, your carnivore diet, paleo and Mediterranean, they're a little more on the sustainable side, but they're also pretty catchphrasy, if you will. The reason I don't much care for those, fad diets is what I call them, because it's the next big thing. Nobody had heard of keto diet until 10 years ago, and then now everybody's oh, I'm in ketosis now, I got the pee strips, whatever. So the reason I don't care for them is because they're not sustainable. They're not they work, absolutely. Are you gonna lose weight on these fad diets? For sure. You'll 100% guaranteed lose weight. I know that. I can say that with conviction because you wouldn't have heard of the diet if it didn't work, right? If there was some diet that was man, if you eat 5 pounds of gummy bears a day, you're going to get super skinny. Only 4 people are going to try that. And then when they're morbidly obese, that diet's going to fall flat and nobody's going to try it again. The only reason you hear of a diet is because it works. But it only works while you're doing it, right? So keto diet, does it work? For sure. It's probably terrible for your arteries, but does it work? Absolutely. You're going to lose weight. The science is there. I'm not a scientist either, but the science is there. You're going to lose weight. The problem is eating 6 grams of carbs a day is a very hard thing to do, right? If you don't know much about dieting, there's carbs in quite literally everything. So you're pretty much limited to cheese and meat. And another thing, the keto diet is like upping your fat content more than your protein content. Anyhow, we don't want to get into it, but like you're super limited on what you can eat because even like vegetables have carbohydrates in them and you can't eat carbohydrates. So you're just like, you're pretty well stuck in the keto diet. And there's a lot of other foods out there that people like to eat. So they do the keto thing and it works great while they're doing it. But then like eventually they're like, man, I would like to eat an apple, which you can't do when you're on the keto diet because there's far too many carbs in it. So then people fall off and they haven't trained themselves healthy eating habits. And then they gorge themselves and just have zero moderation. And then they go back to their old ways. They put the old weight back on. So that's my soapbox on fad diets. I promise you, that's it. I won't jump on it anymore. I know this is a video about nutrition leading into Ranger School, but that, that ties in. Eat generally healthy, right? The food pyramid has its flaws, if you will, but generally speaking, like if you can figure out that you need a lot of colors, eat a lot of colors, all the colors, reds, greens, yellows, purples, like all the colors. The more colors you can consume, the better off you are. And like colors from natural foods, not gummy bear colors. Seems fair. Limit the amount of sugar you consume, like limit, or I don't want to say eliminate because it's going to be nearly impossible to eliminate sugar. Sugar's in like everything anymore. And that's a whole nother thing that I'm not ever going to talk about, I guess. But like way back when in the United States, basically the government made a deal with the devil and did a handshake agreement with all these sugar companies. And so it's in everything. Sugar's terrible for you. So limit that as best as you can. And yeah, like just a lot of colors, healthy portion sizes. So most people don't realize like what an actual portion of certain amount should be. So like, I just challenge you next time you look at a label, and even the labels are probably a little inflated if we're being honest, but like, so like next time you look at a bag of trail mix, right? A lot of people eat trail mix. It says like one serving is a quarter cup, and people eat like handfuls and handfuls and handfuls and handfuls of trail mix. I'm one of them, right? Like and as long as you're not eating like the mountain or the s'mores or, like the kind that people like to eat because they're loaded with sugar and crap. As long as you're just eating like nuts, I don't think you can eat, if it comes naturally from the world, you really can't eat too much of it, and eating 3 apples isn't going to kill you. But at the end of the day, learn to eat healthy portion controls, and it's going to be a better overall sustainable lifestyle for you and your diet. So healthy eating, a lot of colors, correct portion size. Those are like the best things you can do leading up to your Ranger School experience. And I say that because you should be training pretty hard going into Ranger School. Physically, at least, I know I was. So the harder you train, you want to put like good fuel in your body, right? Your body needs energy. That's the food you put in is energy your body uses to do the things you want it to do. And if you're training really hard for Ranger School, like running a bunch of miles, rocking a bunch of miles, doing a bunch of push-ups and sit-ups and hitting the gym, do you want to fuel your body with potato chips and gummy bears and ice cream? Or would you rather fuel it with like spinach, eggs, nuts, steak, chicken, fish? Like, it just seems like a no-brainer to me. if you can think of it in that context, that food is fuel, it's not there to like provide you comfort or any sort of relief or anything. Food is fuel. If you can think of it in that context, probably will help you a lot better when you're faced with the decision of what you should eat. So if you're training really hard to get to Ranger School and you're worried about your nutrition, just think like overall, what should I be putting in my body? Pretty good chance Coca-Cola or Mountain Dew is not on that list. Now, exception. Some advice that was given to me was, hey, when you go to Ranger School, you want to be as fat as you can and still pass the 5-mile run. And the logic behind that is because Ranger School is going to beat you down. You're going to be super depleted. You're not eating much. You're doing a bunch of walking. Guys lose weight when they go, a ton of weight. Like, people look they look pretty disgusting in the barracks at Florida. Like, when you get to Florida, and you're in the showers, just take a half a second, pause, and look around at people. And it's pretty gross to look at, like what the human body can look like. And people look pretty like gaunt. It's kind of weird, but I digress. So that was the reason of the logic of be as fat as you can and still pass the run. Is that then you've got a little bit to lose. Now, I will tell you this. I kind of was like, yeah, that, checks out. It makes sense. I'll put a little weight on. I was training so hard that it was impossible. I was like I had a borderline unhealthy, it was still probably pretty healthy compared to the average American diet, but more unhealthy than I normally consume. Like, I usually try to limit the sugar intake that I have. And before Ranger School, I was like, nah, who cares? I don't really care. I'll eat the sugar because I can still pass the run. But for whatever reason, I was training so hard, I didn't get any fatter. In fact, I probably went to Ranger School leaner than I normally walk around. So, but part of that is because I was training so hard. And then another bit of advice I get, or question I'll get is, hey, before I go to Ranger School, should I practice food deprivation? Should I practice, or same sleep deprivation? It's along the same concept. Should I practice food deprivation or sleep deprivation? Should I prep for that and try to do it to myself before I go so that when I get there, it doesn't hurt as bad? And I usually follow that question up with this response. So if you're a guy, you'll understand for sure what I'm talking about. If you're a lady, hopefully, you understand. But as a guy, it hurts a ton to get kicked in the nuts, right? It's actually pretty uncomfortable. So I usually say, if I told you that in 100 days, I'm going to kick you in the balls as hard as I can, would you go to your best friend and ask them to lightly kick you in the balls for the next 99 days? Just to build up that resilience? No, God, no. Nobody would do that. It's the same thing with Ranger School, the sleep deprivation, food deprivation training. It's gonna suck when you get there, for sure. But don't put yourself through the suck starting now. It's still gonna suck when you get there. Just don't do it. That's my advice on if you're thinking, should I deprive myself of sleep and food right now? Don't do it. All right. So that's before Ranger School. Eat healthy. Generally speaking, eat healthy. And that'll take you a lot of places. Eat a lot of colors, eat broadly, and you'll be fine. Now, I have to talk about the after, because this was something I didn't fully expect once I graduated, and it bit me. So I'm going to talk about it, and then at least then I've done my due diligence. So when you get done, it's no secret. You go through Ranger School and you're hungry. You know, you're not getting a ton of food, and you're eating MREs. So like you're eating not great food even when you get to eat. So you get done and all you want to do is eat, which is fair, really. Like, you should expect that. When you get done, you're going to want to eat. You're going to want to eat all the things, which checks out. Yeah. Do that. Enjoy yourself, right? But I'm going to just give you a challenge. Do your best to moderate it. Now, I should have known this was coming because I went through SERE school a number of years ago. And, you know, you don't get to eat in SERE school either. And as soon as you get like that first trip to the chow hall after you've done all the things, they tell you don't gorge yourself. But of course, what's everybody do? They gorge themselves because you're super hungry. Most people have never like not eaten like that for that long. So you gorge yourself and then you're just like sick. Ranger school is worse because you go so much longer. So your gorge sessions last longer is what I'm getting at. So like after SERE school, it's like you really only have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 gorge sessions, and then you're like, okay, yeah, I remember now. Like food is abundant. I'm here. But that like self-preservation depletion mode is like longer. So I'll try to tell a story that'll like replicate this, right? You're gonna eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and eat after Ranger school. Like you're just gonna want to eat constantly, and there's like not gonna be a trigger in your brain that says to shut off for some reason. Like you can just eat and just, you don't stop. You never feel full. You just eat. So just don't overindulge. Try to moderate it. So after Ranger school, I went to Airborne, right? I think we went with I think there was like 12 of us that had graduated Ranger school and went over to Airborne. I'm going to tell you, we overindulged for sure. So like food wasn't moderated in Airborne, right? There's just like stacks and pallets and just cases of MREs everywhere. And you eat at the chow hall, and we would be the first ones in the chow hall, and we'd be the last ones to leave. Like we would stay in there, we'd get seconds, we'd get thirds. We kept eating, this whole group of us. As far as like the MRE thing, like there's just these pallets of MREs. So we would just get hungry, and like for lunch, each of us would eat like 2 MREs, which is disgusting, to be honest with you. And then all these MREs are there, and you can just like had access to them. So I know I'm going to tell myself, you're not supposed to eat in the barracks. And I never did, but I'm going to tell you. So I went through COVID. I also need to put that little caveat in there. I went through COVID, so everybody was in the barracks. There was nobody like going home or, you know, going to Abrams Hall or anything like that. Like everybody was locked down because it was during COVID. We had a lieutenant colonel in my class. He stayed in the barracks. Everybody's in the barracks. Well, one of the guys in our bay went through Ranger school with me. I just remember, and you don't sleep well also when you get done with Ranger school. It's just part of it. It gets better-ish. But one of the guys that I went through Ranger school with, I woke up in the middle of the night because I could hear like a bunch of noise. So I walked over to his bunk, and he's just sitting on his bunk eating an MRE. And I said his name, and he didn't even move. Didn't look at me, didn't move. He just kept eating. And then I got my phone out, and I shined my flashlight on him, and I realized the guy is sleeping. He's fast asleep, just eating an MRE on his bunk in the middle of the night. So I just thought that was a pretty comical story to like show you that like he's sleeping and eating at the same time. He's sleep eating, which is pretty impressive, really. So yes, enjoy yourself, but do it in moderation, because from experience, you'll get fat. Like your insulin, you have terrible, terrible, terrible insulin sensitivity, super high cortisol levels, super low testosterone levels. Your hormones are just in shambles. You're all over the map. Your body's not ready to like eat the way you did before you left. So your metabolism's shot. So like when you eat, it's not processing the food the same way. So it stores it as fat. Especially after coming off of like something in an instance like Ranger School where you're so depleted and your body's in absolute survival mode and it now has an abundance of food, it's storing it as fat because it's like, holy cow, lean days are coming again. I can't go through that again with as little fat as I had before. I need to have fat. I need to prep myself for that. So your body just naturally like converts most of that to fat. And by God, I'm telling you, you will get fat. If you eat like this, if you overindulge, speaking from experience, because it was jump week in Airborne. So like 3 weeks in, it doesn't take long. I was in the bathroom, took a shower. I walked out of the shower and looked in the mirror. I was like, oh my God, what the fuck happened to me? I don't want to say morbidly obese, but I was definitely the fattest I've probably ever been in my life. Like looking in the mirror, I was like, oh my God, it's time to make a change now. So lucky for me, I caught it. I would say early enough on that it wasn't like the end of the world to try to like come back from. But yeah, when I looked in the mirror, I was for sure not impressed with what I saw. And it was only, I'm telling you, 2 to 2.5 weeks later. And I was already at like a point where I was like, holy shit. So just enjoy yourself, but do it in moderation, right? Just have a plan going into it that like, I know I'm going to want to overeat when I get done. I know I'm going to want to eat this thing and that thing and that thing and this thing and that thing. And I'm not telling you not to. Absolutely do it. You've earned some level of eating, but set a time cap on it, like 2 weeks. I'm only going to eat for 2 weeks. And then I'll, start to get my life back in order and start to eat like a human being again. So anyhow, guys, that's all I got on nutrition for you. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please drop a comment down below. I'll address it as best I can. If there's any videos you'd like to see that I haven't done, please leave me a comment. Let me know what you want to see, and I'll try to get to that as soon as I can. Like I said, I got quite the queue coming up here. I'm going to try to get into some RTTs and start filming some of that stuff. So look for that to be coming out. Anyhow, guys, that's all I got for you. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you have a great day.